motherfucking loud spot.
Loud spot. This is your Southern Flame, Don McIntyre, and we are here with Alex Carr from NVision. How you doing today, Alex?
I'm doing good. I'm a little tired. We had 2 shows the last 2 days, and so now I'm taking a little bit of time before I get back into the work swing.
You've been a busy dude. I've seen you just everywhere.
Yeah, we've got 10 shows we just announced from this Friday until the end of the year. 1 show that we have left to announce that's going to be super great, and we're already booking 2023, talking about the next projects, next steps, and what's coming up as far as release schedule. So I tell people all the time, even when you don't hear from NVision, like there is always something going on with NVision. Right.
Well, there was something that I was blessed to be a part of with NVision, and that was the Massive Night of Rock in Biloxi. I got to meet you for the first time in person.
Yes.
And it was for a great cause. It was for Make-A-Wish. And that brings me to the subject of why we're here today.
Absolutely.
You've got a tremendous story to tell that a lot of people are likely not aware of. I was unaware of until I spoke with you. And it's a message and a testimony that I believe should be heard. So back to the Make-A-Wish. They granted a wish for you when you were a child, correct?
That's right. Yes.
Okay. Now I'm going to let you take the lead and you give us the backstory on how that came to be.
So, So when I was born, I would get sick a lot, and it's funny because it actually started as soon as my mom stopped breastfeeding. It was almost like, her immune system was making up for mine, and we didn't know that. So I started getting sick, and then at first they thought I had asthma, and then I got adenoids in my sinuses, and so which that sometimes happens with children, and the procedure is to cut them out. But they grew back 6 times.
What? They grew back?
They grew back. And wow. the 6th time they grew back, it wasn't my medical team that discovered the issue. It was because they thought I had some type of severe asthma. And I actually, like, as a teen or as a young child, until I hit puberty, I was very, very overweight because they were pumping me with steroids to treat the asthma. And I didn't need it. So my body just fluffed me up, and it was my sinus doctor that did the surgeries that he was like, something's not right here. I'm going to run a panel. And that's when they discovered that I had an autoimmune deficiency.
Explain what that is with your autoimmune deficiency.
So an autoimmune deficiency is basically where something in your immunosupport system, like your, what are they called? The lymph nodes and everything. Right. Where something in that doesn't work. HIV is a viral autoimmune deficiency that is passed through sexual contact. Right. And so a lot of people like even as this was in the 90s, right? So when people heard there was a kid with an autoimmune deficiency, like everybody thought I had AIDS. And
they automatically jumped to that because it's not something commonly heard of.
Right. But it is, especially now, because Crohn's is an autoimmune deficiency, and people don't realize that. Like there's so many different ways that can be attacked. Like HIV is a virus that attacks your lymph nodes and attacks your white blood cells. And that's how it works. It weakens your immune system. Right. And Crohn's disease is one that attacks your digestive system and all that. And I don't know too much about it, so I'm not going to speak on it. What I had was called... and we discovered it later. At first, they just said a broad spectrum autoimmune deficiency. Right. They didn't know exactly what it was. They just knew that my immune system wasn't working. And then when I was 7, this was back when they had a live vaccine for the flu virus. And I think it was like around 1999, 2000-ish is when they switched to the dead virus because the technology met. But, 2000... they were still using a live vaccine and actually caught the flu from the vaccine. And that's when they did further testing and they realized, no, this isn't just a random autoimmune deficiency. He has what is known as severe combined immunodeficiency, which basically means that it was in the issue was not a viral thing or anything like that. It was in my genetic makeup where, all of us have DNA, and then there's RNA, and RNA is what tells your body what to make. RNA is what makes your proteins, what makes your blood cells, your white blood cells. And it's in the same way that, Down syndrome is a issue with the RNA sequence where you have an extra chromosome. And similar to that, somewhat, it didn't affect, my mental capacity, but what it did is that there was like a missing link in my genetic sequence that told my body to make white blood cells. And so all of us have 3 different types of white blood cells. So when you go to get a medical test to test your white blood cells, they do a count of 3 different types, which is like, I think it's like, it's all IG. It's like IgAs, IgGs, and IgIs or something like that.
Right.
Well, my body only had the instructions on how to make one of those.
Wow.
So my system was effectively functioning at about 25 to 30% of the immune response that anyone else has in the world.
Wow. So you could be around people that's sick and just,
Yeah. Not only that, I was allergic to damn near everything. I was allergic to dust. I was allergic to several metals, all kinds of things, because it's not what we discovered later is that I wasn't allergic. It's that all of us, we have immune receptors that help us breathe in dust. We have immune receptors that help us fight off, metallic interference with our body and all these things. But it portrayed itself as an allergen because I did not have the immune system to accept those things. I couldn't play in the mud. As a boy, I couldn't get dirty.
God, that had to be hard.
It's all I knew, so I didn't know any different. Shoot, for the longest time, like I think I was like pretty old when I started like wiping myself because like my parents were afraid that, if I had to wipe my own behind, then the bacteria from my own load, which is, it's kind of gross, but that's how intense it was. That,
everybody's shit.
That I wouldn't be able to handle the bacterial load. And like my family would order pizza and they would all be eating pizza and I would go to the fridge and I would make myself a little veggie plate because of, the amount of unhealthiness that's in pizza would potentially negatively impact my body. And then if that lowered my immune system at all, like the average person gets a common cold, they take some Robitussin or Tylenol or something and, they go lay down in bed and then they're fine. But if I had a cold, that meant an immediate go to the ER and usually hospitalization for a week.
So how old were you when you were so sick? When you found out you were so sick?
So my mom stopped breastfeeding. I was like somewhere around 2.5 and 3. And that's when I got sick, very sick for the first time. Something I didn't actually tell at the massive night of rock is when I was 3 years old, I actually died for the first time.
Wow. So you coded.
Yes. And I actually died 3 times. Twice was on an operating table. I coded out. They tried to resuscitate. They were unsuccessful. They put their heads down, like put something over my head, walked away, called the time, and then the monitor started beeping. Yeah.
Wow.
The third time it was the last time I died. I was like 5.5 or so, and we were at my grandma's. It's kind of funny. It's not funny, but it's kind of funny. I took a nap on her couch, and my mom went in to check on me because they were all talking or whatever. She went to check on me, and my face was blue, and she checked for a pulse, and there wasn't none. And you got to realize that I had a team of specialist doctors. Like my team of doctors was neurosurgeons and autoimmune experts from around the world. I had a team of 15 doctors, and only 2 of them were Americans. So we couldn't just go. This was in Natchez, Mississippi, 4 hours away from home, and we couldn't just go to Natchez is a little bigger now, but back then it was still kind of like backwoods. We couldn't just go to the doctor there. So she like threw me in the back of the car, passed out. I've got no pulse.
Oh my God.
At some point it came back, but she made a 4.5 hour trip in an hour.
That's a mom for you. I tell you, she was living a parent's worst nightmare.
Yeah, well, she actually got pulled over, and like it gets better. She gets pulled over, and they're like, "Ma'am, do you know how fast you're going?" She's like, "My son is dead. I need to get him to his hospital in New Orleans." So then, about 20 minutes in, she gets pulled over, and then the rest of the trip, she has like a full police escort, like that 4 cars. Okay. Going like probably 100 miles an hour driving down the interstate. So it was, that was kind of cool. And then they somehow,
that's intense.
To this day, I don't know how I survived that, but I did. And that, so, I mean, this started as early as I was 3. We were, I was taking gamma globulin intravenously, which is a artificial immune booster.
Yes.
And that was it was working, and they were, it was experimental. Like at one point in time, I was taking 56 medications every single day. Most of them were not FDA approved, and they were just trying anything, everything they could. And, which also, experimental drugs are not covered by insurance. So our bills through the roof, our family actually lost our first house, largely due to my medical bills. And where was I at? So they started getting me on a treatment schedule. I was taking gamma globulin, the same amount that they pump into our soldiers when they were going to Iraq.
Right.
They were pumping the same amount as a 400-pound man into 70-pound me. And these guys would get this once every 6 months. They would get a treatment of gamma globulin, and I was getting that same dosage every 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's really, really intense. And it's, as a parent, your mom, oh my God.
Very
the
strong
woman needs a crown. Yeah, she, that's so intense. That is a parent's biggest fear.
As a parent,
you're wanting to save and fix and do, and
I was terrified
because
it's a genetic disorder, so it can be passed down through bloodlines.
Yes,
and I was terrified that my son was going to have it. So when he hit 3 or 4, those years of his life, I was terrified. And he's 6 years old now. Did you have a genetic
test on him?
No, we didn't. No. Maybe we should have, but we were just kind of watching him,
Well, at this point, you're good, right?
Right, yeah. And I talked to his pediatrician, who was my pediatrician, and so he knew my history, and he was like, look, all you're doing right now is worrying. There's no signs. He seems very healthy, and we watched him, and he went through all those, and he's 6 years old. He's been around me with COVID. He's been around his mom with COVID. He's been around school with kids that have COVID. He's never even had COVID. So obviously this dude's doing way better than I even am.
That just melts my heart. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So diving back into that, we're almost there. They had me on a treatment that was working. I just had to go to the hospital all the time. I practically, like you talked about before we started recording,
yes.
But it wasn't 5 months. I basically lived at Children's Hospital for the first 7 years of my life.
Yeah.
And I knew the doctors personally. I actually, at the night of Massive Night of Rock, I have pictures that were signed by nurses that knew me and was we hope you get better. What was it? So that was going on for many, many years. And then a few weeks before my 7th birthday, we got me the flu shot. I always had first access to it because of my disorder. And I came down with the flu from the flu shot. They had the live vaccine, and this was not a cold that I had to be in there for a week. The flu is much stronger, and immunocompromised and elderly are more prone to dying from the flu. And what little immune system I have, it completely wiped it out. My white blood cell count dropped below 100. I was in the hospital from December of 2000 until February of 2001.
Right.
And it was about that time where, you know, at that time, in that time where I was hospitalized for almost 3 months, the gamma globulin treatments they were giving me started identifying my body as the problem, and it started attacking my body.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So they had to stop that. That was our best hope at survival, and it was gone. That's what had been keeping me alive for years, and now we can no longer use it. So they were like, there's nothing else we can do. And that's when they set us up for palliative care. I'll never forget the day. I don't have a lot of memories from that time, you know, like a lot of them are blocked out, but I'll never forget. They treated me like an adult. You know, they didn't go, hey buddy, how's it going today? They'd be like, Mr. Carr, how are we feeling today? You know, and like as a 7-year-old. And so I believe now that they did that as in a children's hospital to prepare whenever I got the news. They could say, hey buddy, we need you to stay in here so we can go talk to your mom. Yeah. I was still a kid. So they talked to her right outside of the hospital room, and they told her the news, and she starts crying. And I beehaul it to the bathroom in my room and locked myself in there for 3.5 hours. Wouldn't come out. I was crying. And they were like, baby, you need to come out. It's going to be okay. And I'm like, I'm going to die. It's not okay. You can't.
And how old were you? 7?
7. Yeah. Wow. Finally came out. They set us up with palliative care and pain management. If I remember correctly, I think like for a few weeks, I had a nurse that would come over for every few weeks. And then my mom would, she would have to, they taught my mom how to insert a vein. Into, not an IV. Okay. I mean, yes, an IV, but I have a scar on my chest right here, where I had a portacath that was attached to my aorta. Because on top of the
portacath, it goes right up under your skin. For everybody that doesn't know that, it goes right up under your skin and goes in. It's kind of like a PICC line.
It's like an artificial vein.
Yeah, so you don't have to keep inserting into veins that possibly blow out.
Well, I got the portacath when I was like, I think 5.5 or 6. And it's because on top of all the other issues I had, I also had collapsing veins. So there was like, when I got that, I got stabbed like 35 times. They tried to hit every single vein on both of my arms. They tried to hit my hands. They even tried to tap my feet and they couldn't get it. And so they rushed me into surgery and got that. And that's what I had from then on. So I had this and I was like, we tried everything. It's not going to work. They set us up with palliative care. Someone came in. They taught my mom how to access the portacath to give me the pain management medication. We got set up with Make-A-Wish. I'm not sure if it was Mississippi or National. I don't even know if they had branches back then. Right. I just know they came in, and what's funny is, massive media went on WLOX, and I was busy and I wasn't able to come, but I would have loved to be a part of that because WLOX actually covered my story when I was growing up.
Wow.
Yeah. They covered my
I don't
story.
believe in coincidences. You should go on there now and talk to them.
Well, those are things that are outside of my hands. I'm not a part of the media conglomerate thing. But if we
I'm
have
putting that out in the universe now. So there you go. Guys, get on it.
Yeah. Maybe we'll see. I can reach out to them, and next time there's some kind of Make-A-Wish thing, because you know how news works. It's got to be something relative, or they don't care. But it would be cool, because they covered it. Sun Herald, which is our local newspaper, covered it. There was a bunch of things like that they all someone in the station probably remembers the sick kid, and that was all we could do. So we go to Make-A-Wish, we go to Disney World. And then, were you recording when I talked about what changed?
No, I only started recording when I let you know that we were fixing to. Because
we've talked so much already.
I know.
So I am for those that don't know and our listeners that don't know, I'm a Christian. I'm the only Christian in my band, and I I respect all of them and their faiths and beliefs. They respect mine. And, we come together on the central focus of we are here to bring positivity and love to people. And so I think we have someone in our band is like not atheist, but agnostic. We have one that's like the closest thing to his belief system is like Buddhism. We have someone in our belief that has like Nordic faith, and then there's me. But all of us together focus on the fact that we love people and we want people to help be better and mental health, all those things. And that's where our common root is. But a huge part of my faith and through all of my years, even in a time where I stopped going to church and I stopped identifying as a Christian, I'd only still believed in God. And the reason for that was because of what happened to me as a child, where they gave up. There was nothing they could do. And so I went to a Christian school at the time, probably mostly because public schools wouldn't have put up with all the crap that, they had to put up with.
They don't accommodate sick children. I've noticed that.
Yeah.
You can only miss so many days, even with doctor's notes and this, that, and the other, and then truancy or
this school was so amazing that, what would happen is like, especially in that 3 months I was gone, my dad would come and see us once a month or every 2 weeks, something like that, whenever he could. And he would go to the school and pick up all of my assignments, everything else. And they would bring them there. My mom would teach me. We worked through all my homework. And then when he would come back, he would turn everything in that I had, and the teachers would grade it and give me grades. And so it was this, they were incredible. The school doesn't exist anymore, but the lengths that they went to make sure that if I survived, I could still pass school, like it was wonderful. Because I know even sick kids, like there's a lot of them that they get held back, or like so many things happen, like what you were saying. So I was very blessed to have that. But this school was a Christian school, and it was attached to this charismatic church. We were all Lutheran, which Lutheran faith teaches that modern miracles don't happen. So, we didn't believe in that. But we were desperate, and the church brought in a man that was known to lay hands on people, believe in faith in God, and God would heal them. I'm talking like deaf people being able to hear, lame people being able to walk, like modern, like 2000, this is what was happening. And he was coming to the church that my school was attached to. And we were like, you know what, like, let's go try. Like, we don't know, and we've accepted that I'm probably going to die. My mom and I didn't, but, we accepted that unless, barring a miracle, this was the end. So what could it hurt?
Well, see, everybody needs to know, if you have not picked up on it by now, Alex Carr is a walking testimony of being a miracle.
Yeah.
So,
and that's what
he's getting to exactly how that began.
And that's kind of what happened is, we go there, we walk into the church, and we're having service, and like, I could feel something different about this man. I knew that this was not like anyone that I'd ever met before. And he's preaching, and normally how these services work, for those of you who've never been to a charismatic church, is they'll have like worship service where they'll play some songs and people sing in response, and then the pastor will give an introduction, the guest speaker will come up, and he'll preach a sermon and just talk about the Bible, different things like that. And then at the end, they usually say, does anybody need any prayer? And that's usually how things go.
Yes.
Well, this man was in the middle of his talk, and I just get up out of my seat and walk to the front. And it's almost like in the Bible, there was the woman who had been bleeding, which we now know is most likely she might have had endometriosis, but in the Bible, it talks about this woman who was bleeding for months and months and months, and the doctors didn't know what was wrong with her. And she was bleeding so much. Like, now there's treatments for endometriosis that you're not going to die. It just sucks. And most of the time, unfortunately, the treatment option is a mastectomy.
Hysterectomy.
Yeah, hysterectomy, not mastectomy. That's different body part. Thank you.
Been there, done that, and it's exactly why I had to have that done.
Yeah, and it's tragic. But back then, that didn't exist. So endometriosis was a death sentence. And this woman crawls out of her house and touches the garment of Jesus and was immediately healed. And it's almost kind of like that, where I like walked up there with my body completely failing me, just being surrounded by people. I was living in a COVID world, right? Where just being around people was a risk to my life. Yeah. And I walked up there and I touched his jacket and I said, "Excuse me, sir. I really feel like God's going to use you to heal me." And he prayed for me, and he didn't. That's all I said, right? He didn't know what I had. He didn't know I had 6 months to live. I just said, "I need you to pray for me," and he did. And he looked at me and he's like, "I feel like God's telling me that this is not going to be an immediate thing. You're not going to walk out of here and be brand new." And I was disheartened. I was like, "Why?" But he said it's going to take 6 months, and he didn't know that that's how long.
Yeah. Wow.
And over those 6 months, when I should have been declining, about 3 weeks after that, my mom stopped giving me the medication, stopped giving me the pain management, because what they were helping me be comfortable, and then they stopped working. So like that was the first sign that something was different.
So the medication they were giving you to keep you comfortable stopped working.
Right. Wow. Yeah. I started getting very sick from the medication.
Yeah.
And so my mom was like trying to figure out what was going on. She called the doctors, and the doctors, of course, were like, "Well, that's to be expected. He's dying." And she was like, I don't think so. So she, against doctor's orders, which she actually, we can talk about it now, but we couldn't then, because she could have gotten child abuse charges for stopping my medication.
Oh, and that's terrible that they can just dictate that. But that is true.
But so we kept it hush, but she stopped it for a day and I wasn't sick. So then she gives it to me the next day and I'm throwing up. I have diarrhea, So she stops giving it to me entirely. She still fills up the prescriptions, everything. And from all intents and purposes, it looks like, and it's funny. I went to a dental appointment checkup. They knew what was going on. They knew my history. And I was like getting my teeth cleaned, and they're like, "Yeah, I feel great. I don't take my medicine anymore."
I almost spit my dang coffee all over the computer, Alex.
So she had to explain away what was going on. She's like, "Yeah, the doctor's changed his medication," but she wasn't lying. She was talking about the great physician, not the doctor in the hospital. And I just gradually got better. And then I went to get a checkup appointment 6 months later when I was supposed to be dead. And my white blood cell count was under 100 when they set me up with palliative care.
Right.
Then 6 months later, when it should have been, we need a death certificate, and all that stuff, my white blood cell count was over 1,000. And
so it had jumped and improved in that amount of time.
Well, here's the thing. For reference point, the average human being, especially at that age and with a healthy, strong immune system, their white blood cell count is anywhere from 600 to 800. So
you were at 1,000.
Over 1,000. My white blood cell count went from non-existent to off the charts.
Wow.
Yeah. So not only did the procedure, the situation changed, but I went from having nothing to extraordinary health, to the point that it was 2 years before I even had a cold. And we're talking
amazing.
I was sick all the time, and to the point that I had 2 years of not having a single immune system issue. I remember we left the church we were at because they looked at us and they looked at my parents, because we went there and we were like, "God's so good. He healed our son. He's going to live," all this kind of stuff. And the church board pulled my parents aside and they were like, "You need to stop lying to our church congregation. You're causing unrest. You need to accept that he's going to die, or you need to leave." So we left and we went to the church that I was healed. I swear to God, that's what happened. And
I know. And it's so sad, because the whole faith of really any religion, any belief system, is to have faith.
It's extremely sad, and I almost want to but that pastor isn't at that church anymore. The elders are probably all dead, but I would love to go back there and be like, "And you were saying,"
Yeah. I am a walking, living, breathing, very much alive miracle.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
And in the new church, they had like some work day. And so my dad was like helping to build something. And I was playing with one of the church kids there. And we went to a ditch that was on the property and we got muddy and filthy. Most parents would be like, you ruined your nice clothes. And I just remember my dad going like, I'm not mad at you, son. And I think it's wonderful because 2 years ago, if you did that, we'd have to take you to the hospital. And now
you can actually live now.
We put you in the shower and wash your clothes and you're okay.
Oh, my heart, Alex. I knew this was going to be deep talking to you today. So I had to like mentally prepare myself. But just hearing parts of your story at the Massive Night of Rock, such a very touching, heartwarming, inspirational story of hope. And it's just not a story. It's real life. People give up so easily, and miracles do happen.
And that's what I said there.
Always hold on to hope.
Like we could have given up, and I believe that if we had that would have been the end. And and it still could have been the end, even not giving up. And that's I've dealt with survivor's guilt most of my life. Like you told me about your story, and like I remember Luke, the little boy that I used to play games with on the hospital floor, and then one day he stopped coming. And I told you about the little girl that was across the room from me, and I was in the room when she went code blue. And I think about like this is a disease that, thank God, it's rare because the survival rate is 0.00001%, and it's changed because of me.
Yeah.
Like I'm
You're that percent.
To this day, the only treatment they have available for it gives the children cancer.
Wow.
So the only hope for the disease that I had was
to get another disease.
Is improvement of gene therapy in the future. And that's it. And gene therapy is still a technology that is very much in the works. And it could be another 20 to 30 years before it's not a death sentence.
Yeah.
The average lifespan of a child that has severe combined immunodeficiency is about 9 years old.
And it brings me to another point of when we were at Children's Hospital, I never left. I know it was only for 5 months, but I never left.
Yeah.
And I know even the travel back and forth for parents and children that do have to leave and come back, lots of them travel for hours, hundreds, thousands of miles just to get.
We were lucky that it was an hour and a half away. It could have been very differently. And even then, I told you that there's a side like, I lived, but now what? All of those experimental drugs, and I was on about 40 of them. All of those had astronomical costs that are not covered by insurance.
Right.
The hospital visit, like insurance is not going to cover 100% of that. I told you that we lost our house, had to file bankruptcy, and lived in poverty most of my life because of all the hospital bills.
Fighting to survive.
And if I had died, those bills would still be there.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand too that when you think about children's hospitals and Make-A-Wish, Magic Moments, things like that, so much of those treatments, so much of those things that they do, it's not a corporation paying for those.
Right.
It's not a corporation that is standing there holding your child's hand when you're not there in case of an emergency or something you have to run do. Volunteers, donations, your time, your love. I remember being at Children's Hospital for the 5 months, like I said, and it was so hard to make ends meet. It was so hard because you still have to buy food. You still have to travel expenses, medications. You still have to pay your rent and utilities.
And that's why I love things like
life doesn't stop.
Also, like Ronald McDonald House.
Yes, Ronald McDonald House was a big one. I never left my son's room. I did have that option, but he was so sick, I just
Yeah.
refused to leave. We were in the NICU for a while before he was transferred to a room, and I slept upright. You're not allowed to sleep in there. So I would pull 2 chairs together, prop my feet up in it, and lean my head back against the wall. Like I was just chilling. I would have a book or something in my hand. They literally have security guards that will come around. You can't go to sleep. You can't go to sleep. But I refused to leave, so I found ways to work on that. And we had so many people from our community come around with warm, hot meals, because literally most of the time, if you're in an emergency situation and you just up and run, you don't realize a lot of people don't have people to bring them clothes or food.
Right.
A lot of people might not have money to buy vending or cafeteria. I was one of those people, and just the blessings of others kept me going to keep going for my kid. Donations, time, love, volunteering. It's a reality. People do not understand how much it does help and what a difference it does make, because.
And even me, I'll never understand because I never lived the parent side of it, and you're not going to tell your kid how hard it is on you, and my mom, I will never know what my mom and dad went through taking care of me,
But you can rest assured that they would have done more if they had to. So, yeah. Wow, Alex, what an incredible story. And I'm so glad that you're still here with us. Now that we've gotten through that so much, oh God, it's so emotional. Thank you for sharing your story. And people really need to hear that, because people give up on miracles these days, and they shouldn't, because they happen. You're living proof.
There's always hope, and
there's always hope.
It doesn't happen for everybody, and I am not wise enough or smart enough to understand the whys of how miracles get divided out. I just know that they do happen, and
they do.
And I think that people should, hold on hope until the very end.
Yeah, exactly. And make a wish and magic moments, and that's kind of what they're all about, is just to give you some more hope, something to look forward to make you happy, and
I just went to Disney World with my son, and now I'm gonna tear up because we were going to ride a ride that we actually didn't get to because our queue got called for Guardians of the Galaxy, so we had to walk out of the queue. But in front of me in line in Mission Space was I think it was a little girl, and she had a Make-A-Wish shirt on, and I just was like,
wow,
where is she now? That was 2 months ago. She might not even be here anymore. And I remember that I was that kid,
So you never know, though. You never know. Wow. What an incredible story.
Oh, sorry.
No, don't you dare apologize. Absolutely not. I have fought back tears since I got on here with you. I fought back tears the night that I met you, because I'm like, wow, what an incredible story. And I'm like, I was very hesitant to ask, but I'm like, nah, I'm going to be myself. I'm bold. Let's do it. So
I'm glad you did.
Yeah, well, let's talk.
Say NVision blows up at some point in time. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Again, I'm not wise enough or smart enough to know the hows and whys of who gets chosen for the big stages. But you'll have the honor and pleasure of knowing, when people are digging into our history and trying to find out who we are, that this is the first broad span publication that has had this story.
Wow. Thank you so much for that honor. I'm truly, truly, truly just blown away and humbled. You make my heart happy.
I'm glad.
What makes my heart happy truly is seeing you thriving. You are so happy. You're so ambitious and motivated and driven and inspirational. So I'm like, yes, go, baby, go. I get it. I have seen you just busy, going. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. Yeah. So, something about NVision. When did you guys start? When did you decide to start a band?
It's a complicated question, more complicated than a lot of people because it goes into some more tragedy as well. So,
oh, I'm sorry.
So
leave it to me. Ask the hard questions.
A lot of people don't know NVision actually started as a solo project. I was NVision. That was my stage name, and it was a rock, rap, EDM kind of like. Maybe similar. If I had grown in that brand, we would have been something like 21 Pilots. You know.
Wow. Okay.
So that was kind of the direction I was going. I just wasn't very good at songwriting. Like they're all right, you know. And I still have my first EP is on my wall to the side of me. But it was just very different. But the reason I was a solo artist because people were like, "Alex, you're a rocker. Why are you doing this?" And it's because I didn't want to be in a band again. I didn't want to have a band. I didn't want to work with other people. And the reason for that is I had a high school band that we were pretty successful. We were courting a few record deals and we were courting a few management deals. And we were like 16, 17, you know, like we were a punk rock band. And this was back in, 2008, 2009 and the heyday of punk rock, metalcore, all that kind of stuff. So we were like right there. We could have gone, you know?
Yeah.
And my guitarist went to serve our country. And so my bassist moved to guitar and we shopped around and we found this talented young man. His name was Caleb Beaver. And he was with us for about 6 months. And he had a pre-existing condition in his brain that was kind of under the radar and nobody knew about it. And he was very active in his community. He was active in his church. He was active in his school. He was on the soccer team. And right before Thanksgiving Day, right before they went Thanksgiving break, he was at soccer practice and he got hit in the head like, right here with a soccer ball. And he like got knocked out. And so they took him to the hospital, searched him out. Everything was fine. They sent him home. They probably should have done a CT because a month later, we went out for Christmas break. He, I think, drove out with his family to see family in like Kentucky or somewhere like that. While he was there on Christmas Eve, he passed out. They didn't know what happened. They didn't know why. So they rushed him to the emergency room and turned out that little hit in the head, the concussion, turned into an aneurysm. And he bled out in his brain almost immediately. They had him on a vent. And 24 hours later on Christmas Day in 2009, he passed away on Christmas Day.
Oh, my God.
I'm sorry, 2010. Because this right here is Caleb Michael Joe Beaver. Number 5 was his number. And Harrison Central, the high school that he went to, actually retired this number after him.
That's so beautiful that you honored him that way.
So, well, the thing was like him and I were brothers, and I still consider his family my family. We don't really talk anymore, but, they do too. They consider me family as well. And I used to go on mission trips, and he wanted to go on mission trips. So, like, every mission trip I ever went on, he had the shirts that went out to help raise money for family, what we talked about earlier. And I still have them. And one of them was this red shirt with that soccer ball right here. And then it had, angel wings on the back and a little memorial to him. And I took that with me on every single trip. And I was like, bro, if you can't live your dreams, then I'm going to live them for you. And
Alex.
And then, and when I started making the band, because it was 2020, I got with Nathaniel Churchwell. He's my drummer.
Yes.
And his passion for the music was so intense as it was mine. It made me realize that as I got passionate, his passion grew to meet it. And I took this moment. I was like, this is no longer about me. And that's when I finally relented and was like, let's make a freaking rock band. And we wrote She Said and went in the studio and recorded it with a producer who did the guitar on it because we didn't have a guitarist. And we still work with that producer to this day. And when we got that back, we were like, dude, let's do it. So we like found somebody to do guitar for the music video who he went on to play guitar with us for a little over a year. And at the time it was like guitar, drums, me, and a DJ. And so we, at the music video for our first 3 or 4, you just have like some dude on a laptop, like rocking out with us, you know?
Yeah.
And we kind of discovered a way there. 2021, we were on tour in Oklahoma. I was visiting a friend who worked at a tattoo shop. And I remembered that, you know, there was 2 dreams that Caleb had, and one was to do music.
My turn.
It's okay. I did it too. One of them was to do the mission trips, and I took him with me, and we went together to several countries around South America. I've been on 7 trips: Mexico, Peru, Colombia, and Panama. And I visited several of those more than one times. And I took him with me on every single one of them. And then as the band started touring and everything, and I was like, I have another dream of his that I need to live out. And so I had this tattoo and now I wear sleeveless shirts. So like at every show, he's there. If you look back at our pictures, like he's there, you know? And so I carry him with me on every single show that we do.
Wow.
And actually, I was really thankful because Chase wrote Amara, which is a song that we wrote about loss.
Yeah.
Him and I wrote that together, and I went up to him before we played at CPR Fest. And I'm not gonna cry. A lot of people don't know how special CPR Fest was for me because I've played at the Coliseum before, not at CPR Fest, but I have played the Coliseum before. Nothing short of Everything was my high school band. We were pretty well known. And like we were courting several different deals. And the last time I played at the Coliseum with a band, Caleb was on stage with me. And so at the end of CPR Fest, Amara was the second to last song we played. And I announced that, you know, we wrote this song. It was about loss, and we were dedicating that song and the entire performance to Caleb.
Wow. Wow, you have been through some literally life-altering events.
Yeah.
And I am just blown away, really, truly, at the strength that you have and your endurance.
I think I've seen it somewhere that it says, like, you know, the people that are hurting the most work the hardest to make sure that other people don't go through that pain.
I absolutely 100% agree with that statement.
You know, and I think that's why, because on top of all of that, I also suffer from bipolar depression and a few anxiety and a few other mental health issues. And I've worked very, very hard. I'm not on medication, and I work very hard to keep all of those things under control.
Cheers. Me too.
Hey.
PTSD, bipolar, manic depression, and anxiety mood disorder.
I will say that bipolar and depression, I have some systems that help keep me in line, and I've helped a few people with theirs to better manage it. But anxiety, though, I've actually helped about 7 people, 2 of which were on the verge of hospitalization from anxiety disorders. I've developed tools and systems that those people are now living functional lives, and they're not being hospitalized from their anxiety, and they're not taking medication. So, like, we should have another conversation sometime.
We absolutely will.
Because I've that's one passion that I've had is like, okay, I've beat this. This is how I did it. Let me teach you how to do it. And to the point that I now use anxiety as a tool where most people it's crippling, but I take in, like, my brain is so weird that as soon as I understand how a mental illness works, I use it to my advantage, and I use it like a tool. And so, like, with anxiety, I learned that once I learned how to control it, where I can switch it on and I can switch it off. So, like, let's say, like, I used to manage restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the best problem solvers in all of my stores, and not just like creative problem solver. You know, like one time we closed down the restaurant, and as I set the alarm and I went to walk out the door, and the lock broke on the door.
Oh crap!
So like I switched my anxiety on, and I was like, how do I fix this? How do I fix this? And I went to the CO2 tanks that are like wrapped around in chains, right? And I disconnected the CO2 chain because they weren't going to fall over, you know.
Okay, yeah.
I took the chain and I attached the chain from the front door that was broken, wrapped it around, and attached it to like a little metal grate that was on the side of the bar. Closed, and we went out the front door. And that's just like one example of like, who would think to do that?
That's freaking ingenuitive. That's amazing.
And you know, and then we got it fixed the next day. But I was like, I couldn't call someone out at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
So yeah, and that's where and so I have this ability to like figure out how to control these what would otherwise be debilitating
crippling anxiety and
illnesses, and I've learned how to use them as tools, and I've learned how to teach other people to do that as well. And that's why, like, last night we were at a venue, and the venue was like, you guys were amazing, you were professional, but what impresses me is that your fans are some of the best fans I've ever seen. They come in here, they're professional just like you, they're kind just like you, and they're respectful of the environment as well as our bartenders. They told me that, you know, a few weeks before we got there was some band that their people like cussed out the bartenders and stuff, and you know, and they were like, the people that you bring to your shows don't act like that,
right?
And then I was like, well, you know, we talk about mental health all the time. We're open and transparent, you know, like the kind of people we are going to attract are going to be phenomenal human beings like that.
Yes. There you go.
Well, so Alex, shout out to the Broken Hearts Club. I told them today, I was like,
absolutely, shout out Broken Hearts Club. I'm glad to be in that group, by the way. It is such a loving environment to be in.
Yeah. And that's what I actually made that group like 4.5 years ago. And when I made it, if you look at the description, because I haven't changed it, is like, I don't want this to just be about NVision. I want this to be a community where you all uplift and support each other as well as the music. And I think we're getting there to where it's this it's almost alive in and of itself, where there are people who are now friends because they're in Broken Hearts Club and they all talk to each other. And
absolutely,
that's the dream. You know, that's what I wanted to make is not just a community that's about this band, but a community that is there for and care for each other.
Yeah, a loving family and support system.
Yeah, that's why we tell them all the time, like, welcome to the family, you know. You're part of the Broken Hearts Club now.
Well, Alex, it has been such an honor and pleasure to talk to you. Guys, before we get off here, which we're fixing to have to because of the time limit, but I want to remind everybody, be nice, love each other. You never know what someone is going through. You have no idea. Just because they have a smile on their face and upbeat and spirited, and you have no idea what could be going on behind closed doors. Be kind. Love each other. Don't be mean.
Absolutely.
Donate, volunteer to Make-A-Wish, Magic Moments, Children's Hospitals.
Ronald McDonald House. I know,
McDonald House.
McDonald's does a fundraiser every year for their charity. St. Jude's is a great one as well. You know, so
absolutely. And Children's Harbor. Children's Harbor is another great one as well that helps a lot of people through Children's Hospital, terminally ill children. Yeah.
I will say, like, I heard that Disturbed, I think it was Disturbed. No, Breaking Benjamin. Breaking Benjamin granted a wish recently and went to a hospital. And I'll say, like, I doubt anyone who make a wish is going to hear this podcast. Maybe they will, but like, dude, if this would be like way in the future, but I would say that, like, dude, if a Make-A-Wish child wanted to meet me, you know, like, I wouldn't charge a dime. Put that to somebody else. I'll fly out at my own expense and I will go meet whoever wants to meet me.
That is amazing.
Yeah. Like,
love it.
And I don't know that they did. I'm not talking bad about Break. I think that's beautiful that they did that. I'm just saying, for me personally, if I was involved in a wish in any way, shape, or form, like, whatever you were going to pay to get me out there, just put that to somebody else.
Yeah. So Make-A-Wish is definitely going to be made aware of this interview because I'm tagging the hell out of everybody. Just so you know. Thank you for such an honor and pleasure of being on and talking with me. Absolutely. It was very important to me, and I really appreciate your time that you took to do this. So
I'm really glad we got to do it. Now we'll have to come back another time and actually talk about the band, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. We are definitely going to do that. So NVision, guys, check them out on all your listening platforms. Check them out on YouTube. Everywhere you can stream, listen, buy the merch. That's the biggest way to support your bands.
Yeah.
Buy the merch.
And tell them
buy the albums. Streaming is great, but if you really want to support them, buy the merch and the albums.
And if I do say so myself, we have some pretty sick designs on our website.
They really do. Yeah. Absolutely.
Mostly, like, you know, I designed most of them. So
you do, you really? Yeah. That's amazing. And also check out the Broken Hearts family on Facebook. Social media. So,
yeah. Welcome to the family.
Yeah. Welcome to the family. It has been an honor and pleasure, Alex. Thank you so much. And I send so much love. Stay right there. I'm going to stop recording and we're going to chat for just a second. And I know you've got to do a few things. So be right back. Thank you for joining us, everybody. This is Southern Flame, Don McIntyre with The Loud Spot, and Alex Carr from NVision.
This is The Loud Spot outro by Nothing Short of Tragic. Is this all talk with no action? No. Is this my thoughts with distraction? No. Is this what I bought that's in fashion? Or is this The Loud Spot with Sebastian? Yes. Does Nothing Short of Tragic have us back again? Yes. Does everything that's good really have to end? Yes. Our pin post has to pin show, so to get more episodes, make an order, this is over.